What's going on, guys? Josh from SoccerReviewsForYou.com bringing you my review plus on-feet video of the brand new Nike Mercurial Vapor 13 Elite in what is the main launch colorway that all the pros will be wearing, the blue and white New Lights Pack colorway. You might have already seen my review of the blackout under the radar pack colorway for the Vapor 13 Elite, but because the boots were entirely blacked out, it's kind of hard to make out some of the smaller details and changes made from Vapor 12 to Vapor 13. So with this new blue colorway, you can see a lot of those details a lot more clearly. And I want to give you another rundown of everything that's new about the Vapor 13 in comparison to the Vapor 12 that it replaces, because despite looking very similar, they're actually very different football boots. So if you want to learn more about these, including how they fit and feel on feet, please stick around and watch the entire review. And if you're interested in a pair of these for yourself, there will be a little pop-up in the corner of the screen, as well as a link down below in the description that's going to take you to the review page on my website, where you'll find buy it now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes, where you'll be able to pick these up below their normal $250 retail price. So if you're interested in a pair, that's the place to go. If you guys do end up enjoying this video and perhaps would like to see more on the new Mercurials, don't forget to support this one with a like and let me know specifically what you want to see down below in the comment section. Also, if you're new here and don't want to miss out on daily football boot content from me, make sure you hit that subscribe button along with the little bell notification so you get notified when the next new video goes live. So included with the boots is the not very interesting silver and black Nike box that you get with any top-end model. But more importantly, they also include a string bag, which you might notice looks a lot like the string bag we got with the Vapor 12, and that's because they haven't actually changed the design at all. It's a blue and white bag to match the boots. It has the big Mercurial M logo on the front, as well as a small Nike swoosh at the bottom. Nothing at the back whatsoever. I personally expected a little bit more of a wild design given the crazy just do it graphics that you have on the Soleplate and upper of this brand new Mercurial, but nonetheless, it's a decent string bag. It's not a 16 out of 16, but it is instead a 2.71 out of 3.91.9. So let's start with the first thing that you notice, and that is the way that these boots look. We are used to seeing, I guess, controversial launch colorways from Nike with the Mercurial. The last one launched in orange and black. A lot of people not liking the small swoosh. The ones before that launched in this weird kind of pink and volt and orange and black striped thing that I wasn't a huge fan of. And then obviously the 2014 release in the Hyper Punch and Volt was a wildly successful launch colorway. This, I think, looks very, very good. The blue and white combination is very simple, it's clean, and personally I'm a big fan of the graphics. Obviously they have opted for the large Nike swoosh on the side that kind of flows into the base of the sole that I really like the look of. A small swoosh at the toe, which some people don't like, but personally I love that. It reminds me of some of the classic Nike sneakers that they've put out over the years. And then they've gone a little bit more crazy with the Mercurial branding, kind of shortening Mercurial to just Merc, which I think looks quite cool. And then a lot of Nike branding kind of just scattered all over the place. It says Merc one more time, just do it, a signature saying of the Nike brand. If you look even closer than that, there's all kinds of little writing as kind of a fine detail element, even a wearable sole plate finish in the forefoot, not in the heel. But either way, I think it just looks very, very cool. I'm a big fan of the colorway and the look, but let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. But as we know on this channel, the boots can look as cool as they want, but if they suck, who really cares? Well, in the case of this brand new Mercurial, it comes a little bit sooner than the usual 2-year cycle that Nike runs their boot lines on, and it looks very similar to that of the Vapor 12 that it replaces. And most of the time when a new model comes out, I have to be honest, it's kind of a variation of the same thing, some slight improvements overall, but most of the time, it's never really worth it to upgrade over the previous generation. The difference is never that significant, but in the case of Vapor 12 to Vapor 13, they might look very similar, but the Vapor 13 is legitimately that much better. And the main reason why I think it's so much better is down to the upper. It's a Flyknit upper still, but a totally different feel as well as wrap on your foot. The Flyknit now utilizes 2 different types of yarn. A texture layer, which gives it this kind of grid-like texturing that's a little bit difficult to see because you do have this super thin Nike Skin top layer that has this little white graphic in there that just adds another element to the overall look of the boot, but has nothing to do with performance. But if you look a little bit more closely, you can see some white yarn in there as well. The blue yarn is the texture layer, and then the white yarn is what they are calling a high tenacity yarn, which is a derivative of their Flywire technology, which this technically does not have, but it is instead knitted within that texture yarn to create one single layer of Flyknit that has the softness you expect, that sock-like sensation, but also the structure and lockdown and responsiveness that you would want from a pair of high-end Mercurials. The end result being the same responsiveness that we got from the Vapor 12 and Superfly 6, which was really, really good, but a better wrap around your foot, better flexibility, a thinner upper that offers a better touch on the ball, and honestly just a more comfortable feel in general. So basically they've maintained the same high level of performance, but have hugely improved the fit, comfort, and overall touch on the ball. Speaking of touch, it's thinner than what we had on the Vapor 12 and Superfly 6 with those Flyknit uppers, and I know it was controversial with the Vapor 12 to transition from Teijin synthetic to Flyknit, and it was an understandable complaint given what the Vapor 12 ended up being, but this is a Flyknit upper that I think feels better than any Teijin synthetic upper to come before it. Is it quite like Teijin? Definitely not. There is slightly more thickness to some of the thinner Teijin uppers that we did have over the years, but because of how flexible and soft it is against your foot, without having really any extra padding, you still get that very raw kind of pingy sensation. I'm just really, really happy with the touch. There is somewhat of a gritty texturing to the surface of the upper that now has the thinnest Nike skin top layer ever found on a pair of Nike boots that now also covers pretty much the entire Flyknit upper. There's no exposed areas left along the side like we saw on the previous generation that were a little bit more slick on the ball and obviously got dirty quite easily. So the end result with the texturing and what is a slightly sticky sensation to that Nike skin top layer is a little bit of additional grip versus what we had from the previous generation, but definitely nothing too crazy. And then of course, Nike's most important feature on their top end model, ACC All Conditions Control technology, is apparently still here. It's still invisible, but they have not opted to put the ACC logo anywhere on the boots. That's how you know it's important. The upper is still a one-piece construction with the Flyknit material across the top of the foot being a little bit thinner than it used to be, but still an elasticated material. And of course, you still maintain the central lacing system with the dual lace hole setup that with the laces tied tight in combination with this new Flyknit construction, wraps your foot very closely, moves very naturally with your foot, but also provides tremendous responsiveness. Moving to the rear, the Vapor, as it was and has always been, is still low cut, but still features this kind of mini collar, if you want to call it that. Fits and feels like a standard low cut boot though. You have an internal plastic heel counter, and the heel liner for the most part is pretty much unchanged, being made out of a synthetic suede material with some perforations throughout. The insole is also unchanged, still being removable with their Nike Grip mesh top layer, which just feels like regular mesh, and it's made from a single layer of this yellow foam with this kind of more dense, slightly harder black foam through the midfoot with a little pattern pressed into it that perfectly matches the pattern on the underside of the anatomic sole plate, so it locks in almost like a puzzle piece, preventing that insole from sliding around. Which brings us to the base of the boot that does look quite similar, but they have made some minor changes. It's still a split sole construction, still with an anatomic sole plate base that runs from heel to toe, but then you have a stud plate in the forefoot and a stud plate in the heel with Flyknit upper kind of exposed through the midfoot that is there basically for the sake of looks. I'm still of the opinion that a split sole is a worse way of doing a football boot, but Nike is doing it clearly because it just looks very cool, which I can't really argue with. As far as the stud plates are concerned, you can see that the stud pattern in the heel remains the same, but the stud plate now is cored out through the middle to shave as much weight as possible, which is kind of a cool design element inspired by the GS360. That is kind of where we saw this design come into play in a split sole form factor at least. And then in the forefoot, the stud plate now features their AeroTrack system, which is basically a slightly redesigned stud plate that offers, I would say, more progressive flexibility and a very kind of bounce back pingy sensation in terms of running. It's supposed to be a little bit more responsive. I felt like with the Vapor 12 and the Superfly 6 split sole, the sole plate just felt very stiff in general. This is still stiff, but with more natural flexibility to it, where the more it bends, the slightly stiffer it gets, but it doesn't feel unnatural in any way. And then as far as the FG stud pattern is concerned in the forefoot, you can see that it's the same general layout, but they have added some extra angles, mainly to the point of the chevron studs, that I don't think make for too big of a difference in regards to overall traction. It's just a very minor change. But what they have also done is they've extended the studs by 1 millimeter versus the previous generation, which is apparently something that a lot of professional players wanted just to make the traction that much more aggressive. In my opinion, the traction feels about the same, but the fact that they have made the studs 1 millimeter longer is an interesting choice. In terms of weight, not much has changed coming from Vapor 12 in a size 9.5 US. You can see that the Vapor 13 Elite weighs in at 6.95 ounces, the equivalent of 198 grams, which is roughly about the same as the previous generation, give or take 5 grams or so. So the weight has not changed significantly. They still feel very lightweight on your feet, but definitely aren't the lightest speed boots on the market. So I've swapped out the stock blue laces, which admittedly look fine, but given the fact that this is likely to be one of the most popular colorway releases of 2019, everyone's boots are going to look like this. So instead, I've put in some white reflective SR4U replacement laces, which give you the little reflective bits, which always look cool. Plus the white makes all of the white accents on the boots against that blue upper pop that much more. So if you're looking to change up the style of your boots in a very inexpensive way, the website to go to is www.sr4ulaces.com. There'll be a little pop-up on screen as well as a link down below in the description. So if you're interested in some for yourself, be sure to go ahead and check that out. On feet, like I've mentioned throughout this entire video, while on paper the Vapor 13 is similar to the Vapor 12, the fit and feel is quite a bit different. The Flyknit upper this time around feels thinner and just a lot more sock-like on your feet. It doesn't have that plasticky stiffness out of the box, and especially once broken in, like we had with the Vapor 12 and Superfly 6. And that's mainly down to the fact that the way it's reinforced is by way of actual Flyknit rather than kind of liners and plasticky materials. There's just no hardness to the upper anymore. The Soleplate feels about the same to me, maybe a little bit stiffer, but at the same time also more natural in regards to how it flexes. And while the boot is technically still built on the same last, which means that the base shape is identical to that of the previous generation, they have totally changed the shape and volume of the upper to where this just fits a lot tighter, more like what we had with the Vapor 11 and Superfly 5, which I think a lot of people will appreciate for those that weren't big fans of the wider, higher volume fit of the Vapor 12 and Superfly 6. As far as width is concerned, again, it's kind of classic Mercurial in terms of having a very tight fit. If you have really wide feet, probably not a great option for you. And if you don't like tight fitting boots, I would definitely not recommend Mercurials, but if you like that tight fit, I think these will fit most people as long as your feet aren't too wide. And as far as sizing is concerned, I'm wearing these in my usual size 9.5 US, and the fit and the length is perfect. So if you're looking to order a pair for yourself, I'd recommend going true to size in order to achieve the best possible fit. So in conclusion, and if you've watched the video up until this point, this shouldn't be a surprise, I think the Vapor 13 Elite is excellent. This is one of those boots that makes me excited about football boots. We get so many new releases these days, but so many of those new releases almost seem like change for the sake of change. They're totally unnecessary and they almost don't change a thing. And while this might seem on paper very similar to that of the Vapor 12 that it replaces, the reality of the situation is that this is a drastically improved pair of football boots. And I don't want to call it revolutionary, but I do think that it is a major evolutionary step in regards to knitted uppers. We saw knitted uppers make a huge splash with the Superfly 4 in the Mercurial line back in 2014, and the progress that has been made up until this point has been very, very small. This is the biggest jump that they've made, and if you're a fan of boots that legitimately feel like a pair of socks, there's nothing more sock-like than this, and there's also nothing that performs as well while also feeling as sock-like as the Vapor 13. I think it's good. Anyways, guys, that's it for this one. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to support it with a like. Again, if you're interested in a pair of these for yourself, first link down below, go ahead and check it out. It's going to take you to the review page on my website where you'll find buy it now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes. You'll be able to pick these up below their normal $250 retail price. If you have any questions, as always, leave them down below in the comment section, and I'll do my best to get an answer out to you as soon as I possibly can. Subscribe if you haven't already for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. You can find all my social media information linked down below in the description as well. Other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.